We're talking this morning about the warning signs we sometimes overlook in relationships.
Signs your friends may see, but you ignore. Signs you need to get out before you get sucked in.
Laurie Berzack from Carolina's Matchmaker.com joins us now with some of those red flags when you're dating. Laurie, it's great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You're not talking about like a one-time thing. When somebody is, rude to the waitress, that doesn't necessarily make somebody a bad person. Maybe they're having a bad day.
Exactly.
You're talking about when you've got your gut is telling you, this is a little weird, and you choose to ignore it anyway.
Exactly. And all of your friends are saying to you, he's not a good guy. I don't like that he's done X, Y, and Z. And you're thinking, oh, but it's been so long since I've been in a relationship. That's what I think it is. I think a lot of times women especially, I think, hold on to men for too long because they don't want to be out there in the dating world again. But I think that if you really notice the red flags in the beginning, it's easier to remove yourself. And again, Colleen, like you said, it's not just one time. And it is. You got to listen, that little voice inside you. I think that we ignore that way too much. Yeah.
What's the first sign you say, do not ignore?
I think the alcohol situation is a good one. And I always say to people 1 to 2 drinks maximum, and I'm not talking about 2 double whiskeys. That's not like 2 drinks. That's like 4 drinks. So we're not talking about that. But I think that it's really important to really notice how much people are drinking. And sometimes the problem with drinking too is that it doesn't show up right away. So sometimes you need to coast through a little while with a relationship and really notice people's drinking habits.
I know, a lot of times in the courting phase, if you're going out to dinner a lot and you're sharing a bottle of wine, it seems very normal. But maybe after the course of several months, if you're drinking every time, that's something to pay attention to and to consider a red flag. Okay, I mentioned if they're rude to a waiter or waitress, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that could flip back on you later on. So you have to notice when how your dating partner treats other people is potentially how they're going to be treating you.
Right.
Same goes with how they treat their mother and father and siblings, and sort of all that stuff that they've carried forward from previous relationships, including exes. That's a big thing. If you go out on a date with somebody and they start really talking poorly about their ex-spouse or their ex-girlfriend or boyfriend, be careful, because what that really means to me is they haven't dealt with some of the stuff that they've gone through in the past, and everybody's got it, but if they haven't gone into the therapy and they haven't really fleshed it out in their minds and they're still sort of holding on to that anger, whatever somebody is giving out is what you're going to be absorbing. And who needs that either?
Exactly.
I mean, they could be wonderful, wonderful people. Honestly, same goes with people that are drinking too much. If they get treatment and they handle things, they could be wonderful partners for you too. But you don't need to be the one going through it with them unless it's, later on in life and you're married and, you need to deal with it.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think a lot of it is just at the beginning, what do you want to be taking on from the start and really being very conscious of it.
But what about jealousy?
Yeah, that's a tough one because that can turn really negative and that can go down to a dark place sometimes. Not everybody's jealous once in a while, and I think that can be good to keep you on your toes. If you notice your boyfriend looking at the other women as they're walking by, you need to say, "Honey, I'm over here.
Right.
Look at me instead." But obviously, if he's busy, texting someone on the sly I have to go to the bathroom and he's in there for an hour doing this kind of thing, you just need to be cautious of it. But jealousy can turn to anger quickly.
Absolutely.
And nobody needs that either.
You say, Laura, that someone who seems almost too good to be true, that can almost be a red flag. How so?
Yeah, interestingly, recently I sent a couple out on a date, and by date number 3, the guy was telling her that he was falling in love with her. That's a little too soon. I mean, I know, okay, listen, my parents got married very young, and after 3 dates, Dad proposed, and I think that happened back in the day. And they're still married, thank God. But it doesn't. I think that is a really big red flag, and people are trying to really rush things along with the relationship, calling and texting all the time from the very beginning of the relationship. Got to take it slow, ease into it. Nobody trusts things that goes too fast.
I agree.
Yeah.
Now, what about when it comes to things like defensive behavior? Or I had a friend recently who met a guy who seemed so nice, and then out of the blue comes a racial slur that just knocked her off of her feet.
Yeah. Well, those are like 2 completely almost different issues too. Sometimes I feel like the people that are defensive aren't taking responsibility for their actions, and they're just blaming everybody else for what's going on. And I've worked with people like that before, and to be honest with you, I haven't been successful with them because they cannot listen to the constructive feedback that I'm giving them when I'm saying, well, here's what was going on in this situation, and he's busy saying, oh, but that's her interpretation of it, not my interpretation, or whatever it is. So I just feel like sometimes you do have to take responsibility for your things. Now, in terms of racial slurs, I mean, I think that's really unacceptable. Sometimes people come from a background of they heard that a lot growing up or whatever. That's no excuse, though. You know, we're living in a new age. People are more open to everything, and they need to be educated, and that's not okay. It's not okay to have a partner like that.
What about somebody who is really vain, overly vain?
I always say if I was with a partner who spent more time on his hair or his clothing than I did, forget about it. You know, I had this client once, and the woman said, you know, we would walk by buildings outside, and he would look at himself in the mirror, you know, like he was preening in the mirror.
Yeah, real.
Yeah, I'm not, yeah.
And this goes both ways, too. We should talk about women who are overly vain.
Let's talk about
I feel like
women.
we're beating up on guys, but it's
we
both ways. Yeah.
You know what, for women, too, you know, some guys have complained to me, oh, she takes like an hour and a half getting ready before we go out. I don't need that. I don't want that. But some guys say, you know what, I like it when my woman looks good all the time, and it takes time to look good. So I think that as long as you know going into it that's what you're going to be receiving, then you can be okay with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about someone who's critical? I think that's a big red flag. Somebody who doesn't like the way you put the dishes in the dishwasher, or doesn't like the way you what you're wearing ever, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I think, again, and this goes back to our conversation at the very beginning, it depends on how often and what the tone is and everything else. Because, you know, I always say at the beginning of a marriage, people are very critical of things like the dishwasher and this and that and the other thing. And I just say to them, just let your partner load it up however they want to. You can fix it later if you need to. But if you start saying to them, being really super critical and telling them you don't like how they're doing things, they're not going to do things for you anymore. So be careful about being too critical. But if someone's too critical with you and they're really just, it's affecting your self-esteem, you need to be able to communicate it with them. And if they can't, you know, adhere to what you're saying, then it's probably time to give them the boot.
Being critical about what I wear or my hair.
Getting back to what you said, though, about what your gut is telling you, because I know a lot of people who've gotten married, even when they thought, I don't know, and they're now divorced. So that is an important voice to listen to. Carolina'sMatchmaker.com is Laurie's website. Carolina'sMatchmaker.com. Laurie Berzack, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Always good
talking
to see you.
Good to see you.